Hello, listener. The fact you hear this means you're alive. If you're new here, consider subscribing and comment below where you're listening from. Let's begin the story. My name is Jonah Vale. I used to inspect steel cell towers and tanks that should have been retired. I signed my name on reports no one read unless something failed. When the outbreak began, reports stopped mattering. What held was simple. Height buys time. Silence buys distance. And simple systems don't panic. Here's how a dead water tower became a fortress, and what it cost. I wasn't a soldier. I wasn't brave. I was the guy who checked bolts and tried not to think about falling. I learned early that loud fixes make louder problems, so I worked quiet and kept backups for my backups. When noise started pulling the sick like a magnet, I looked up and saw a way to live. The tower I chose sits outside a farm town with 2 diners and a feed store. White paint gone to chalk, bowl on a single stalk, ladder in a rusty cage. The county shut it down years ago after a pump failure. No water inside, just steel and wind. Perfect. It gave me height, a 360 view, and 1 choke point I could control. I'll show you what I did and why. What I cut. What I kept. How to make power without making attention. How to collect clean water from a dirty sky. How to write rules you can follow when you're tired. And how to keep those rules when someone asks you to break them. I don't dress this up. There's no poetry in a missed step. There's only gravity and a plan that either holds or doesn't. If you want a miracle, this isn't it. If you want a checklist that kept me breathing, that's what you'll get. One thing before we start. I didn't climb that tower to be alone. I climbed it to have a place where choices still mean something. That held until the first week when the quiet broke in the middle of the day. The outbreak turned real when the county alert system pushed 3 messages in 1 hour and then went silent. The first blamed a rabies cluster, the second said stay off the roads, the third never reached half the phones. Hospitals filled and drivers tried to flee, which only moved the noise from block to block. Noise pulled the sick in steady lines, and once they arrived, they simply stood until the next sound called them. 2 days after payroll stopped, habit still won. I walked the yard, locked the cage, and felt the routine end. A truck with gas and a plan that didn't need permission. That was what I could trust. I wrote 5 words on a clipboard. Height, water, power, food, watch. I circled height. Lists give panic a job that doesn't make things worse. I wanted no building with many doors, no low roof anyone could reach. 1 way up and 1 way down I could own, that pointed to a water tower. I knew this one. Single-pedestal, round bowl, chalk-white paint, caged ladder, a sealed hatch into a tank that hadn't held water in years. Empty is good. No crews, no inspections, no curious neighbors, just steel and wind. 2 blocks shy of the base, I killed the engine and went on foot. Wind and weeds, a loose sign clapping a post, a far siren that wouldn't help anyone. The quiet said move now if steps stay careful. Loads for ladders have to stay honest, so the kit stayed light and did more than 1 job. I packed a grinder, pry bar, hand saw, drill, rope, 2 straps, gloves, and a harness. Power meant 3 folding panels, a small fused box, and 2 deep batteries from an old boat, enough for a lamp and a radio. Water meant a filter, a length of hose, 2 food-grade drums with lids, and a short run of gutter with an elbow. Catch the drip off the rim when rain sheets down the bowl, screen and settle, then boil. Food stayed basic. Rice, beans, oats, peanut butter, salt, oil, tea, a small stove, and hard candy to steady hands. I kept a 22 with a small box of rounds, a 12 gauge with 5 shells for what reaches the ladder, and a 9mm at my belt. Tools for endings, not for hunting. I made thick marker signs. Closed for repair, authorized personnel only, danger ammonia, because tired people believed them. Keepsakes stayed on the shelf at home. You can't strap a life to a ladder. I took a notebook and a pencil because pencils write when batteries die. Rolling before sunrise buys time to fix mistakes. At the base, the lower gate was chained and the post was weak. 1 cut freed the chain. I pocketed the lock, climbed 3 rungs, stopped and memorized the fall, then went to the crown. The rail felt solid, the hatch was sealed, and no nests sat where feet needed to go. Back at the gate, I made the first change, marked 12 rungs and cut them, left 2 as a service step for a rope ladder, and caught the scrap so it wouldn't ring on the way down. Decision made, I said the rules out loud. Ladder up unless my feet are on it, lights down at sunset, no cooking smells after dark, radio low, no fast moves unless something is already wrong. The tower earned the pick because a few cuts make it simple, and simple holds when hands shake. I promised no tricks I couldn't fix in the dark. By noon, the grinder cooled, the ground lay clean, the gate closed with a fresh chain, and the old lock went back on to sell the lie. The rest of the gear needed staging where eyes wouldn't find it, so I looped the town once and hid the truck behind a closed feed store, tarp over the load, mirrors checked twice. Tomorrow's plan was simple. Return at first light with drums and radio, move gear by rope, and begin the real work. Lungs needed to be steady for that, so I went home, kept the boots on, slept 4 hours, and watched the window for a sky that could say yes. Morning delivered it. A flat gray that hides motion, a breeze that carries sound away, an empty road, and the kind of silence that lets careful hands work well all day. That was the day the tower stopped being an address on a map and started being home. I reached the tower before sunrise, parked 2 blocks away, and walked the stretch with a harness under my jacket. The lock still hung on the gate, no new prints in the dust, only mine from yesterday when I cut the lower rungs. Getting up without those rungs was the point, so I used the same workaround we used on bad ladders at jobs. A painter's pole with a taped hook lifted a steel loop over a higher rung inside the cage. I clipped the rope ladder to that loop and set the bottom in a shallow scrape so it wouldn't skate. I clipped my lanyard to the side rail and climbed slow, 3 points on at all times. At the platform, I stayed inside the rail, tapped bolts with a wrench, spun the hatch lugs to be sure they moved, and checked the tank. Dry steel, old paint, no nests. First order, make the climb repeatable when hands are tired. I ran a pull line through 2 rail posts and tied it to the rope ladder's top so I could lift and pin the ladder from the platform, then drop it fast if smoke or time demanded it. The pin was a carabiner through a short bit of chain, cheap, loud if dropped, workable with gloves. Second order. Build a hoist I could fix in the dark. A rag over the rail kept the rope from cutting. I tied a brake knot and used body weight to raise loads in short lifts. Slow, but I could stop mid-pull and it would hold where I left it. The line went down and the place started to look like home. I brought life up in small bites. Stove, pot, food, tools, then an empty drum and a strap cradle so it wouldn't spin, then the second, then panels and the battery box, then the radio. Everything staged against the tank shell, not the rail. Tired feet kick and edges don't forgive. Rule 1 went on a clipped page. Nothing loose near the edge. Power first because light lets you finish the rest. 2 boards screwed into a sled so wind couldn't flip the panels. I aimed them south with a shallow tilt and ran wire to a fused box and then to the batteries. The meter showed a charge. Enough. A lamp pointed straight down the ladder to blind anyone looking up. Water next. The bowl sheds rain off the rim. I clamped a short gutter under that drip, ran a hose to the first drum and stuffed a bit of screen in the mouth to catch grit. A first flush, 1 bottle that fills first and dumps with a twist. Throws away the dirty start of a storm and keeps the main drum cleaner. We still boil everything. Shelter is a wind choice. I hung a windbreak on the west with tarps and conduit and left gaps at the bottom so gusts had somewhere to go. The pad bag and a dry box sat in the lee. The stove stayed on a baking sheet with a brick under it to keep heat off the grate. Alarms by time. I hung a line of nuts and washers below the rail so they tapped the legs in the breeze, then tied 3 tin can rattles on cord at knee height around the base, wide of the ladder. A cheap driveway sensor went in as a last resort. It chirps soft and dies loud. Guns stay cased and out of the sun. The .22 stays closest because it's quiet. The shotgun lives near the ladder for when reach matters and talking won't change it. The pistol rides my belt until sleep, then in the bag by my hand. Tools first, noise last. By noon, I had enough to stay a night. A light that works, a water path that won't poison me, a place out of the wind, and one way up I could deny. I took inventory, ate cold beans, and sketched the platform so I wouldn't forget where I put the few things that matter. Rule 2 went under Rule 1, ladder up unless my feet are on it. The road stayed empty, a train horn carried and quit. I pulled the ladder, pinned it, checked the tie, and sat with my back to the tank, listening to a place I had made mine. The horizon held flat, field and a road, no dust tails, no birds lifting. That's when the gate below clanged, one hit, metal on metal, not wind. Power stays simple because simple keeps you alive. I run 2 panels into 2 batteries through a fuse, and a small meter tells me when I'm wasting daylight. I don't chase perfect angles. I chase repeatable ones. South, a slight tilt, pencil marks on the board so I can reset them in the dark. Cables stay short and tied down. Wind can tip panels if you let them act like sails. The ladder lamp remains off until needed. When it's on, the beam points straight down, blinding anyone who looks up and leaving a clean shadow on the platform. I tape the switch so a sleepy hand can find it without thinking. Water takes more thought. The bowl sheds a clean drip once a storm settles, but the first minute runs dirty. I let a small bottle catch that first flush. A quick twist sends the grit away. Then the hose locks back to the main drum. Inside the drum, a cloth bag with charcoal keeps smells down. If a step takes more than 5 minutes, it won't happen in cold. Clear water is worth the time. Sick days cost more. Quarter marks in black marker make the drum readable at a glance. Dates go on the side at dinner. I boil while there is light, fill clean jars, and leave lids loose until steam fades. The stove sits on a tray with a brick under it, and a fire blanket waits an arm's length away. Fire on steel isn't a gamble worth taking. Food stays basic, rice and beans most nights. I cook early, eat half, save half for later. After dark, there's no cooking and no open cans. The goal isn't pretty, the goal is quiet. A short shelf holds the radio, the meter, and a notebook. I keep weather and the emergency band on scan. Loud volume makes people lazy and lazy makes mistakes, so levels stay low. Sleep works best inside a corner of wind. 2 tarps and a few hooks make a break on the west side with a gap at the bottom so gusts have somewhere to go. I lay the pad with the rail at my back, clip a short lanyard to my belt loop, and set my boots on their sides so I can slide in fast. First sundown on the tower always feels like a test. The ladder pin gets checked, then checked again, then stomped to lock the habit in. I walk the rail, tap 4 posts, and say the rules out loud. Ladder up, lights down, radio low, no hero moves. Night comes clean out here. No traffic, no dogs, no planes. Stars mean clear and cold. Clouds mean sound might carry back to you. Silence makes small mistakes louder, which helps when you're tired. At 2,200, the timer chirps and watch begins, the 22 across my lap because routine shrinks the dark. Every 10 minutes, I sweep the base with a low light and count the tin can chimes around the legs. If one goes quiet while wind blows steady, something is standing there. If one ticks faster, the wind has shifted. Close to midnight, the bowl catches a quick spatter and then silence. The first flush bottle gets opened. A cup of muddy water slides out and drips through the grate. A distant train sounds and fades. I write train, plus the time in the notebook. Near 2, a faint engine crosses east to west and never slows. The ladder light stays off. I breathe slow and let the plan do the work. The tower feels like a tool I can trust. Sleep comes in 2 pieces. At gray light, I put a pot on, boil hard, and pour tea. The panels get a small morning adjustment. On a first night that doesn't break you, that small win is enough. Then at first light, steps on gravel, slow testing, not wind. Morning sound carried clean. Gravel scuffed once, then stopped. I kept the ladder up and watched through the rail, a low sweep of light at the base and a finger on the lamp switch. One figure stood by the fence line, head tilted like he was waiting for orders. Clothes hung wrong, one sleeve torn. No rush, just the pull toward the tallest thing around. I didn't speak. Noise pays out more visitors than it solves. The cans on the cords clicked steady, none went quiet. He drifted to the gate, touched the cut rungs like metal might grow back, then turned toward a far engine and walked away. First test passed without a shot. That's the mark to aim for. Let physics and distance do the work. Day 2 set the rhythm. Morning. Boil. Log the drums, move the panels, sweep for loose bits, check gutter clamps. Midday. Hoist what was staged in town. 2 jars, a fold-up chair, a better pot lid, a coil of cord. Afternoon. Map the ground. I paced a circle at 8 meters, scraped shallow trenches for hoses I'd fill later, and sank short stakes where trip lines would sit. Slow feet beat fast feet when the ground is honest and you know where it bites. Radio stayed on scan. Weather first, wind out of the south, dry air, a front 2 days out. Then long static and a clipped voice. Remain off arterial routes. Visual markers only. Avoid rail yards after dark. The call sign didn't stick. I wrote the words in the minute. Later, a calm female voice rose out of the band. Prairie Gate, Corridor Bravo, 20-mile window, rotor assets low. It repeated twice and fell away. I logged it and marked the rail with a bit of tape so I could point the antenna the same way at the same hour. Small habits turn into range. Food stayed easy. Rice with ditch onions and a spoon of peanut butter. Toward evening, I strung the first line of sand hoses. Old fire hose filled with dirt and gravel laid over those trenches. They settle and don't roll. A trip line threaded through low stakes sat just inside the ring at ankle height. Dull cord so it won't flash. I walked it twice. If I can't move it silent, no one can. The evening scan turned up something new. Quarantine cordon. Volunteers staged at the grain elevator, Route 19 in Old Creek. Shelter in place unless injured. The elevator was 10 miles east. 10 miles might as well be a border when the county listens to noise. I wrote it anyway. News that doesn't help today might save tomorrow. Night 2 learned the plan faster than I did. Ladder up, light down, watch on the 10s, pistol on, rifle close, shotgun by the hatch. No hero moves. Wind slid past the tarps and the cans kept a slow beat. Near midnight, the radio cleared. Prairie Gate to any elevated positions west of mile 42. Signal with panel at 1400 hours, no flares. Avoid timber. Identify with mirror if able. I underlined elevated and 1400. Panels can wait. Mirrors travel light. Plans do too if you keep them short. Then tires on stone. An engine idling with no lights. The truck stopped in the dark and didn't move. Headlights stayed off. The engine ticked and then cut. I kept the lamp ready but dark and let the radio scan low. Whoever sat out there parked in the blind spot behind the legs. Gravel shifted. A voice called up, careful. Not sick, a man said. A woman. Medic. We can show wrists and necks. A kid. We have batteries. No rewards for surprises. Stop at the base, I said. Hands where I can see them. One at a time. Rush and I pulled the ladder. 3 shapes stepped into the moonwash and froze. The man held his hands out. The woman raised hers. The kid set a tote on the gravel and backed away. I lowered the rope ladder to a foot above the cut rungs. Necks, I said, clicking the beam on high. No bites. Wrists. Clean. Turn. They turned slow. Good. Names? Jonas Pike, the man said. Fix his pipes. Climbs roofs. Sora, the woman said. Field medic. Miko, the kid said. 15 radios. Okay, I said, one at a time. Jonas first. Keep your weight centered. If you slip, I lock the line and you hang until I say move. He climbed steady. At rail height, I checked his hands and guided him onto the grate. No sudden moves, I said. This edge doesn't forgive. Sora came next, methodical, counting steps under her breath. Miko climbed last, light and quiet. We stood by the shell where the wind broke. The pistol stayed holstered, the shotgun near the hatch. Ground rules, I said. We work quiet. No lights after dark except down the ladder. Ladder stays up unless feet are on it. If you feel sick, you say it first. If you lie, you leave. They nodded. Trade? Jonas asked and nudged the tote. Inside sat 2 sealed batteries, a roll of wire, a bag of rice, and a small stove with fuel. Sora added a compact trauma kit. Miko held up a mirror. Panel is heavy, he said. Mirror fits a pocket. Batteries earn a bed, I said. Food we split by the pot. Water we boil. Deal, Jonas said. We set watches, me to midnight, Sora midnight to 2, Jonas to 4, Miko to sunrise. I showed the trip lines, the hose ring, and the ladder tie. Sora slid a glove along a sharp edge. Tape this, she said. The tape went on. Miko aimed the antenna at the tape mark I'd made. You logging times? He asked. I showed him the notebook. He matched the format without being told. For a first night together, we kept it dull. Dull is safe. Jonas rewired the lamp switch so it couldn't bump on. Sora taped a small chart to the shell. Pulse, temperature, last water, last food. Miko tuned the handheld and found a faint beacon. Prairie Gate again. We marked time and bearing. After midnight, the truck drifted into the ditch. We had taken the keys and left the wheel turned uphill. Weeds would hide half the body in a week. Fewer questions for anyone passing. Before dawn, we caught a first win. The bowl shed a steady run from a thin cloud line. The first bottle dumped grit. The drum took the rest. We boiled 2 pots and filled 4 jars. Sora checked the seals. Good, she said, no pops. At breakfast, we set the day. Panels, water, ground checks, then a careful run to the feed store to pull the last staged tote. Jonas would go with me. Sora and Miko would hold the tower, watch the lines, and log the band. If you hear my voice on the radio, I said, don't answer. Watch the ladder and wait. Copy, Miko said. They're talking windows again at 2. What kind of windows? Jonas asked. Helicopter, Miko said, and they want mirrors, not flares. We had a place, a short list, and 4 people who could follow it. Start there and you might see tomorrow. Miko logged the drop and underlined the hour. Jonas coiled the wire and tied it off with a habit learned on roofs. Sora checked pupils' hands and pulses because small problems turn big at height. The ladder stayed up for a reason. We kept the day quiet, but sound finds a way. Mid-morning, 2 low choppers ran the horizon and pushed wind through the grass. The blades drummed far off, then faded. 5 minutes later, figures came out of the tree line, heads tipped toward where the noise had been, then toward the tallest thing left standing. The tower turns into a sign even when you do nothing. We stayed on the platform. Ladder up, light off, rifles down. I handed Jonas the .22 and kept the shotgun near the hatch. Sora watched the base through a mirror so faces stayed below the rail. Miko tracked counts in the notebook, 1 mark per head. 8 at first, then 12, then 15. They moved like a tide without water, stopping at the hose ring and rethinking feet. The first one hit sand hose and slipped a half step. Not a fall, just a pause. That pause matters. The trip line sat just inside the ring, dull cord at ankle height. When the next 2 shuffled in, cords brushed skin and made them look down, and that look down stole balance. Silence did the teaching. Noise is a tool, not a flare. Miko tied a string to a metal strip on a stake 50 feet out and ran it to a crank. 1 turn and the strip ticked a post. He turned it once every 3 minutes. The sound pulled attention away from the ladder without calling the county. They tested the base, hands on rungs that were gone, fingers in cage wire, a foot on lattice that leads nowhere. One found the cut ends and bled a little, then kept scraping like blood could grow steel. Sora whispered, "Don't move," and we didn't. Wind shifted. The cans clicked faster. A thin shape in a yellow vest stepped over the first hose and froze at the second, toes sinking into soft dirt. The body wanted to lean. The ground said no. 2 more crowded behind and turned the front one sideways. They drifted until the stakes blocked the path. A pair broke off and tried the leg. Lattice looks like a ladder if you're desperate. It isn't. One got 2 feet up and slid when the shoe rolled. The other hit the trip line, went to a knee, and stayed like the floor had rules the head couldn't read. "Count?" I asked. 17, Miko said. Now 18, 19. Hold, I said. No shots unless hands touch the last rung. Jonas exhaled. Copy. Minutes taught more than speeches. The edge lost interest first, peeled toward the faint tick, found nothing to hold, and wandered into open ground. The center stayed, faces lifted, waiting for a sound we didn't give. Sun moved, shade crept. We planned a second layer if the ring failed. Soap and water turned concrete slick. A sprayer sat by the rail. If hands reached high, we would wet the pad and let physics do what shouting can't. The bottle stayed closed. Near noon the crowd thinned. Two lingered. One small, a teenager maybe, one sleeve pinned, staring at the ladder light that wasn't on. The other paced a fence and tapped it with the back of a hand. The fence gave the same answer every time. When the last two drifted off, the cans settled to a slow tick. I checked the ladder pin and wrote the time. We passed a test without a shot. The ring held. The lines worked. I started to say we could lower ladder and haul tote. That's when the driveway sensor chirped once, then again, and stayed solid. The sensor held a steady tone, not footsteps, continuous. Jonas leaned over the rail and pointed north. A thin line ran across the pasture like a welding bead, orange, low, pushing its own wind. Grass fire. Upwind? He asked. North, then east, I said. It's skipping in strips. We had cleared a ring, but Prairie Fire's like edges. I checked the ladder pin, killed the radio backlight, and walked the rail. Panels got dropped flatter and tied. The windbreak came down, no sail. Sora packed the stove and sealed the fuel. Miko killed the scan and set the handheld to weather. Red flag advisory, he read. Gusts 25. Copy, I said. Gear tight. Nothing that can fly. Heat moved in waves. The line crawled, then jumped. Fire didn't climb high. It crouched and swept in a sheet, eating thatch. Embers rode low. A crew could stop it with a wet line, but there were no crews. We had a hose sprayer and 2 buckets. Concrete only, I said. Wet the pad by the ladder and the hose ring. Keep water off the panels, steam cracks glass. Jonas worked the sprayer. Sora filled a bucket from the drum. I set lids and hammered them tight. Heat pulls lids loose. We kept our backs to the tank and our hands slow. The ring did some work. Bare dirt and sand hoses break a run. Fire hit, looked for fuel, and moved on. A tongue found the stacked weeds by the fence. Jonas pointed. That'll light the posts. We can't reach it, I said. Let it go. Smoke built in layers, low and fast. It smelled like hot metal. Dry grass makes a different smoke. The sensor died, came back, died again, choked by heat. Watch the lattice, Sora said. Any melt on plastic? Cables are tied high, I said. If ties pop, we cut loose. The front reached the ditch and grew teeth. Wind pushed flames horizontal and sent sparks to the base. Sora covered her mouth with a scarf. Miko blinked hard and stayed on the radio. Air quality alert, he said, voice flat. No kidding. I took the .22 off the grate and put it in the bag. Guns rust. Focus on heat, not stories. The first ember hit the grate and hissed. Another fell through and died on damp gravel. A bigger one flew up, rode a curl, and kissed the tarp edge. Jonas smacked it with a glove and it went black. Panels? I asked. Holding, he said. I kept the ladder lamp off. Light and smoke turns into a beacon. We stayed dark and let the tower be a post in a river. The sound changed. Not a roar, more like heavy cloth pulled across the ground. Fire ran out of grass in one strip and sprinted in the next. Our ring looked small in that light, but small beats nothing. Sora touched my arm. Hear that? Engines? I asked. Not trucks. A deep thrum moved under the wind. I thought rotor, then felt it in the rail. Steel talks when heat climbs and wind shifts. The bowl creaked, then settled. The tower wasn't in danger. It reminded us to let it move. Breathe slow, I said. In through cloth. Flame licked the ditch, grabbed dry seed heads, and threw sparks onto the concrete below the ladder. Jonas misted the pad. I pushed the drum's vent closed a half turn to keep fumes from breathing smoke. Miko set the mirror under the tarp and wedged it so it wouldn't flash. The front crossed the ladder side in 5 minutes that felt like 30. Heat rolled past and left a black yard. Small pockets smoldered. The fence smoked and dropped one slat. Ash fell like gray snow and stuck to the rail. "Heads out front," Jonas said, squinting east. "Tails still chewing west." "We waited out," I said. "No one climbs." Wind eased and swung 10 degrees. Smoke veered and cleared a slit of road. A shape moved in that slit, a person weaving, one arm held tight to the chest, not walking from the fire, walking in front of it. The figure saw the tower and stopped. We waited until the wind settled and the smoke thinned. The figure at the road kept swaying, then turned away, pulled by some sound we couldn't hear. No rescue, no approach. The fire shaved the field and left a black map. Upgrades came from that burn. Bare ground made lines easy to read, and the wind showed where edges failed. We started with lift. Hauling by hand works until a slip turns a tote into a falling hammer. I built a small basket from a wire shelf, set a pulley above the gate, and tied the line to a break at the rail. The basket carried 2 jugs or a drum lid. If I let go, the knot caught. Jonas squared the frame and added a stop block. "So it can't kiss the shell," he said. We tested with a full jar, then body weight on the line. It creaked and held. Heavier work without burned grip. Decoys next. Fire makes shadows sharp. We cut 2 silhouettes from roofing felt and hung them on the far side of the bowl where wind wouldn't flap them hard. A cheap lamp behind a slat gave each a faint shoulder glow. From below it looked like a guard, not our ladder. I painted the real hatch to match the shell and taped over shine. Wind plates went on the west rail, 3 slotted panels bolted loose enough to swing. They broke gusts without building lift. Miko worked on sound. "Noise is a wire," he said. "Wrap it around the wrong post." He rigged a small crank to a metal vane near the fence. A string ran up to a loop on the rail. 1 pull, 1 tick, once every 3 minutes unless something moved. The tick pulled eyes away from the ladder without calling the county. The radio repeated a window. Prairie Gate, Corridor Bravo, 1400 mirror checks. No flares. Avoid timber. We marked the hour and stayed dark. Panels flat. Mirror under the tarp. By noon, the bowl cooled and ash turned to powder. We walked the ring and reset lines where posts had charred. Jonas found a melted bottle at the fence. "That could have been a panel," he said. We tightened ties and moved the sled 2 feet leeward. The lift earned its keep. Up came a second drum, a stack of jars, and a cut ladder we turned into hooks. Sora built a narrow shelf for her kit where she could reach without stepping. "Easy reach makes fast hands," she said. She taped a short list under it. Bleeding, air, bones, burns. The window came and went without a rotor. Wind bent grass and moved on. We watched lines and kept the band low. Late afternoon brought a new note. Higher than a mosquito, lower than a kettle. Miko's head came up first. "Drone," he said, "not hobby." We killed the ladder lamp and sank behind the rail. It drifted in from the east at treetop height, 4 arms and a camera blister. It hovered over the black field, then crept to the base. "Mirror down," I said, "no flashes." Hands still, it stopped above the hose ring and rotated. Camera to the cut rungs, then the cage, then the fence. Up, down, hold. Sora kept her voice low. "Counting," she said. "Mapping approaches." Miko showed the handheld. "Band spike," he whispered. "Not ours." The drone slid under the bowl and looked up into shadow. Metal throws echoes. From below they'd see a dark hole and a ring of light. We stayed where the rail cast shade. Jonas nudged my elbow and pointed. The decoy silhouettes drew a tiny pan from the camera. The drone paused, chose wrong, and drifted toward the fake guard. "Good," I said. "Let it file the wrong card." It moved on. Over the road, then back. A quick tilt toward the truck in the ditch, a hover, then a slow pull to altitude. The note thinned and was gone. We didn't cheer. Sora wrote the time. Miko sketched the path. I reset the mirror so it couldn't catch sun by accident. We're on someone's map, Jonas said. We're before, I said. Now we know it now. We stayed quiet after the drone, but quiet doesn't last. Near noon, a pair on foot walked the road with white strips tied to poles. No guns out, hands high, eyes on the ladder. They stopped outside the hose ring and called up without shouting. We're friendly, the man said. We keep the school field cut for landings. Folks call us Mowers. We saw your tower. Names first, rules second. Stop at the base. Show wrists, necks. One at a time, and they did. No bites, no fever. Marta, the woman said. Ray, the man added, lifting 2 plastic jugs. Water for trade. Need batteries and a little rice. We've got a field, generators, a windsock. If we get a helo down, we'll share slots. Miko wrote the names and the time. Jonas watched their feet. Sora watched their eyes. Generators bring company, I said. How often? Weekly, short bursts, Ray said. 15 minutes on, long off. Noise pulls the sick off the school, then we shut down. Field stays clear. Pilots see it. Prairie Gate heard us Sunday. We heard it too, Miko said. Marta looked up. You're elevated. Mirrors make sense for you. We do groundwork. Cut grass, mark wind, run a beacon when a window opens. With your batteries, we hold light longer and save fuel. Clean on paper, messy on roads. What do you want for real? I asked. 2 sealed batteries, wire, tape. 1 bag of rice. We'll give you first call if a bird comes, Ray said. Slots aren't yours to give, Jonas said. Pilots land where fields look managed, Ray said. We make that happen. Sora asked, how many on a pickup? 4 max, Marta said. Same as the call. We're not raiders. And when a crowd follows the noise, Sora said. We move them with a second pass, Ray said. That second pass drags them back toward this ladder, I said. Sometimes, Marta said. Wind decides most of it. Truth earns respect, not a ladder. Here's our offer, I said. 1 battery, 1 roll of tape, mirror tips, and a note on rotor paths we've heard. In return, you keep any beacon dark within a mile of here. Mow on odd days only. If you need water, fill at the creek. We'll show you how to settle it. 1 battery won't hold a light, Marta said. It will if you don't waste it, Jonas said. Use engines to cut, then switch to the smallest lamp you own. Shade it. Aim down. Miko held up the mirror. Short flashes, he said. Not sweeps. Marta's mouth tightened. Rules are easy up there, she said. On the ground, rules break. They break up here too, I said. We just write new ones. Ray tried one more angle. Drop your ladder. Let us up. 10 minutes and we'll wire you a proper light. Ladder stays up, I said. We'll lower a line. He stared a beat, then nodded. Fine. Trade went smooth. 1 battery went down in a sling. The jugs came up. Marta passed a paper map with pencil arrows to the school and a note. Sunday 1400, wind southwest. We mow at noon, she said, short runs. Beacon stays dark unless the window opens. Keep it dark even then, I said. Mirror first. No promise. They cut toward the school, white strips flicking in heat. Think they'll keep it dark? Jonas asked. No, Sora said. Miko watched the horizon. Listen. Wind carried the sound flat across the burned field, a buzz that grew teeth fast and close. Engines coughed to life 2 hours early. Engines shouldn't have started yet. The school field buzzed anyway, and the sound pulled heads out of the trees in one sweep. A line formed on the road, not fast, just sure. Generators sell a promise. They also buy a crowd. We stayed dark. Ladder up, rifles down. Jonas watched the hose ring, Sora the fence, Miko the band. Engines rose, dipped, rose again. They're running long, Miko said. The first group reached the field and stalled at the short fence. More came. A few peeled toward us, following echoes around the grain bins. Tick line, I said. Miko pulled once on the string. The metal strip tapped the post. Eyes drifted that way, not up. Another knot formed at our base. Hands tested the cut rungs, smeared rust, reached again. Soap the pad? Jonas asked. Wait, I said. Let the ring teach first. 2 stepped on sand hose and slid into soft dirt. A third hit the ankle line and took the others down. We held fire. Engines cut, then kicked again. The crowd at the school split and smeared across the lot. 2 invests ran with poles, pushing a lane clear. The sick followed the sticks. Sora breathed through her scarf. They'll drag that mess all day, she said. Wind shifted and threw our cans into a faster beat. A tall man tried the lattice like it owed him steps. Hands, I said. Sora stood ready with the sprayer. 1 boot rolled, he slid, hung on the wire, dropped to his knees and stayed. No shot needed. Twilight took color out of the field. We prepped the fallback. Lamp taped, mirror covered, stove cold, rope ladder pinned and checked. Miko tied 2 small bags of gravel to a short cord and clipped them to the rail. If they stack under us, he said, drop left, not right. Full dark came fast. The school died quiet. The crowd takes time to forget. Ours thickened, thinned, then thickened again when something rattled in the ditch. I lowered 1 gravel bag and let it kiss the far leg. A soft clack turned heads and drew feet off the ladder. Near midnight, a fresh sound pushed through static. Rotor, high and east, nowhere near the field. Miko slid the headset on and pointed at the meter. Spike, a voice cut in, clipped. Prairie Gate to elevated positions along Corridor Bravo. Mirror check at 1400 tomorrow. Road LZ candidates needed west of mile 42. No beacons near timber. Confirm if able. We didn't answer. Talking opens doors you can't close. I wrote the line and the minute. Jonas looked toward the school. They'll light up again at noon, he said. They'll drag half the county. Then we don't meet a bird at the school, I said. We mark a road or we stay home. The night pressed on. A woman reached the last hose and slipped to 1 hip. Sora lowered the line with the knots and pushed her back from the lattice without leaning over. The woman drifted to the tick line instead. By 2, the base was empty. By 3, the school was quiet. We slept in pieces and woke to a flat sky and ash on the rail. The ring got tightened. Plan for the day. Check ground. Pull the last tote. Watch noon. At 0930, the radio cleared again. Corridor Bravo update, the voice said. Window holds. Identify from height only. Ground teams at Route 19 and Old Creek evaluating LZs. Report obstacles if you can. We had a road, a mirror, and a choice. Noon would not wait. We planned for the window like it might be the last this month. I walked the road west of mile 42 at first light with Jonas, staying in the ditch and counting spans. Lines crossed at 2 places, both too close for a rotor. 1 stretch lay clean between poles, 150 feet flat and black from the burn. We marked it with 2 rocks and went back by a different fence line. Sora and Miko prepped the tower, panels flat, mirror covered, ladder tied and checked. We staged a go tub at the base with a stove, 2 liters of water, a radio battery, and a spare rope ladder. If the call came and the ground stayed safe, we could move in 5 minutes. At 11:30, we ate early, rice and jerky. School will start up, Miko said. We listened. At noon, the engines coughed to life. The buzz rose, fell, then steadied too long. Sound smeared across the blacktop and pulled a gray line out of the trees. Hold the tower, I said. No panel here. We signal from the road and keep this platform dark. Jonas and I moved low through the ditch past the fence onto the burned strip. We reached the clean span and kneeled with the mirror at my knees. The sky held a haze that would take a signal without throwing light. At 1340, rotor thrum came from the east, high and steady. The craft rode the corridor and slowed near the mile marker. I flashed 3 short hits, then 1 long. The machine banked, checked the road and poles, and held at altitude. Radio crackled. Prairie Gate to road team west of mile 42, we see you. Obstructions? Lines north and south, I said. Clear 150 between poles. Surface intact. Crosswind light. Copy, the voice said. We cannot land on a crowd. Estimate, the school's buzz had pulled shapes along the fence and onto the shoulder. 10 on the east approach, more forming. Hold, the voice said. Then, "We can drop a bundle, cannot lift," Mark whined. Jonas stood, raised both arms, and turned like a weather vane. The craft drifted lower over the clear span, never committing. A dark shape fell on a sling and hit the asphalt 20 yards from us. The hook jerked free and the craft climbed, no second pass. We pulled the bundle into the ditch and cut the straps. Inside, bandages, water pouches, 2 ration bricks, a hand crank radio, and a bright panel the size of a towel. A note in marker, "Road only. No beacons near timber. 1,400 windows." Movement on the shoulder shifted from drift to aim. Feet on gravel, slow but many. First faces showed at the end of the span, drawn by the last of the rotor and by us. "Time to vanish," I said. We slid along the ditch with the panel. The rest stayed under bark and ash. We moved parallel to the road, then cut back to the fence and slipped into the field. The tower rose ahead against the haze. Sora's mirror winked once, base clear. We reached the hose ring as the first figures touched the rocks we had set as marks. "Up," I said. Jonas tied the load and I raised it. Feet on rungs, eyes on hands, ladder up, pin in. We stayed low and let the crowd spread thin on the road. The engines at the school finally died. We had a panel, a path, and a note that said someone still planned days. That was hope measured the only way that counts, by work to do next. We measured the next week in small repairs and smaller choices. The fire left a black ring and clean sight lines, but ash got into everything. I greased the hatch lugs, taped sharp edges, and logged what the wind moved. Jonas checked knots and replaced any that felt dry. Sora rotated water, dated jars, and listed burns we might see if the school kept engines running. Miko mapped the drone's path. Noise never stopped, it just hid. A distant generator coughed, the cans ticked faster, and 3 shapes stepped from the trees and faced the tallest thing in reach. We let the ring do the talking. When a clump stacked under the ladder, we dropped a gravel bag on the far leg and pulled eyes away. When fingers found the lattice, Sora pushed with the knotted line and never leaned out. I kept the shotgun cased. 1 shot costs a week of peace. Decoys earned their spot. The felt silhouettes drew looks in the wrong direction, and the lamp behind the slat gave them a shoulder. We never turned that lamp on at night. Daylight alone sold the lie. Food ran simple. Rice, beans, onions, jerky when we had it. Jonas taught me to soak rice at lunch to save fuel at dinner. Sora added a rule: no new tools after dark. Tired hands make noise. We followed it the night the wind shifted and shoved smoke under the bowl. Panels flat, mirror covered, stove cold, and we held the rail until the air settled. Miko tuned for Prairie Gate and anything that sounded like pilots. 2 calls repeated. 1,400 checks, no beacons near timber. He built a tone box that chirped every 10 minutes if we forgot to stretch. Doubts came on quiet nights. I kept asking if the fortress kept us safe or kept us apart. Sora wanted a clinic with walls. Jonas wanted a roof he didn't have to unlearn when the wind changed. Miko wanted signals past the county. I wanted the ladder to be there when I woke, and the choice to leave to stay ours. Those wants don't always fit on one platform. The Mowers broke their odd-day promise twice. Engines ran long, and both times the road filled and thinned only after sunset. We tightened the ring, checked stakes, and held our shots. On the second day, a boy in a gray hoodie stood at the hose and stared at the ladder light that wasn't on. He couldn't be more than 12. He drifted when a truck door slammed at the school. We used the new panel once at 1400 from the road, then hit it. The craft never came low. Just a slow bank and a check, like it was counting rooftops and not faces. Still, someone was flying and writing times on a board, and the map might one day include our dot. By week's end, the tower felt older. The ash blew east, the fence cooled, and the cans slowed to a lazy click. We had water, a working lift, and rules that held. We also had a decision coming. Prairie Gate would open a window again, the school would answer with engines again, and the road would choose who got seen next for us. That choice arrived faster than we thought. The engine started early. Noon was an hour away, but the school field already buzzed. We had a window to prepare and a mess walking toward us. Same plan, I said. Ring teaches first. No shots. Jonas checked the hose line and reset 2 stakes. Sora sealed lids and moved the stove into the dry box. Miko tuned the corridor channel and underlined 1400 in the log. The panel stayed covered. The mirror lay face down. At 12:05, the radio cleared. Prairie Gate to elevated positions. 1400 mirror check holds. Road LZ west of mile 42. No beacons near timber. The first wave reached the hose ring and slowed. Sand underfoot stole balance, the ankle line stole pride, and the lattice took no one higher than a knee. We dropped 1 gravel bag against the far leg to pull eyes left. It worked until a new sound entered the field, metal squealing, low and desperate. "Bus," Jonas said, chin toward the road. A yellow shape sat half in the ditch 200 yards east, door against the bank. One window held a faint fist. Small, steady. Sora's breath changed. How long? Long enough to be out of air and not dead. The crowd felt the bus and veered. We could let the field take its course or make a new one. We pulled to the base, then the lift, I said. Jonas with me. Sora on the ladder, Miko on counts and radio. Window in 80 minutes, Miko said, and copy. The kid won't make 80. We dropped the rope ladder and climbed. Sora braced and held the line. 2 minutes, she said. No hero moves. Down the cage, across the pad, over the hose, through black stubble. The bus sat nose down. The front door jammed, the rear latch had failed. Inside, the small fist slowed, then hit again. Pry bar, Jonas said. Steel bit the frame and groaned. Hinges. I cut a bolt and popped a pin. The door opened a foot. Sora slid beside us, scarf up. Pulse first, she said. Get me room. We pulled the boy out, 12 maybe, eyes wide, hoodie gray with ash. Arms around my neck, Sora said. Don't kick. She checked him fast. Dehydrated, she said, not burned. Footsteps scraped on gravel. 3 figures turned into the ditch. Move, I said. Back through the stubble with the boy between us, the crowd at the tower pivoted at our steps. Miko tugged the tick line. Heads shifted, not enough. Soap, Sora said. At the base, we hit the pad with a fan of soapy water. Shoes slid. The first 2 fell and took the third with them. Sora handed the boy up to Jonas on the low platform. I tied the lift line and climbed. Hold tight, I told him. Miko lowered the basket rope. 2 pulls, he said, then pin. We clipped the boy's belt and tied the mirror flat so nothing flashed. Up slow, I said. The basket lifted and kissed the rail. Sora pulled him into the windbreak. The base thickened with bodies. Jonas and I went up hand over hand. The ladder came up, the pin went in, and the pad below turned into a slow grinder of elbows. Kneeling by Sora, I watched her check the boy. You with me? She asked. Thirsty, he said. Small sips, I said. Name? Cal. Window in 50, Miko said. Road is clear now, but if the school lights up again. They will, Jonas said. We checked the road. The bus sat like a marker. The clean span west of mile 42 lay empty. 2 choices, I said. Signal from the road and try for pickup or hold and wait. Third, Sora said. Send the kid with 2, the other 2 hold. 4 seats. Cal stared at the mirror panel. Is that for a helicopter? Yes. Will it take us? If the road stays safe and the pilot says yes. The radio popped. Prairie Gate to Corridor Bravo. Window holds. Road LZ looks clean. No landings at school sites. Panel team ready? Miko said. At the base, a fresh line walked along the fence. The decoys pulled a few eyes, not enough. The school engines would start, the road would fill, and the clean span would go away. Jonas with me, I said. Sora stays with Cal. Miko on ladder and counts. If we're not back by 10 after, pull the ladder and stay dark. Copy, Sora said. We went over and ran the ditch, kept the burned strip under our boots, and reached the span with 10 minutes to spare. Wind light out of the southwest. We raised the panel and flashed 3 short, 1 long. Rotor answered from high and east, then swung toward us and slowed. The craft held off the poles. "Road team west of mile 42, the radio said. "We see you." "Crowd status?" 10 near the school, I said. 2 on the approach. No lines across the span. "Copy, we cannot hover long. 4 seats weight limited, 7 minutes. The school engines coughed early and the crowd turned like iron to a magnet." "Make the lane," I said. Soap went across the shoulder and the first 20 feet of asphalt. 2 figures hit it, slid, and took the next 2 with them. The rotor dropped and threw paper and ash. "Bring the kid," the voice said. "Road team, choose 3 more." I saw Sora at the rail, Miko on the pin, the ring tight, the bus in the ditch, the map on a wall with our dot finally marked. "We've got him," Jonas said. "Say the word." I keyed the mic and didn't speak. The rotor's nose dipped. Wind pressed my jacket and grit moved. Time slipped 1 mark. The clock ate a minute. Cal sat 60 feet up, breathing steady, watching a panel he thought could fly him away. The span began to fill. The window held. So did the boy's hand. We could catch one, never both. We didn't get both. We chose the boy. "Cal goes," I said. "Sora with him. Miko too if the pilot allows. Jonas and I hold the tower." Jonas glanced at the span and set his jaw. "I'll keep the lane clear." I flashed 3 short, 1 long. The craft dipped and came down the line, nose high, never fully committed. Rotor wash pulled ash into ropes. We walked the panel forward and knelt at the edge of the clear stretch, waiting for the pilot's hand. A gloved arm pointed, "Load fast, 4 seats, 60 seconds." Sora crossed the ditch with Cal on her hip and Miko holding the new panel like a flag. We met at the paint stripe. The crew chief stepped out, grabbed Cal, then Sora, then waved Miko aboard. "One more!" he shouted. I shook my head and pointed back to the tower. He read it, slid the door, and the world turned to wind. Jonas and I backed into the ditch as the helicopter nosed up and slid east, low over the black field. Silence fell. On the road, the soap lane kept 2 from running. The rest forgot why they were there. Engines at the school never started. Maybe someone read the rule. Maybe fuel ran out. Either way, the field didn't roar. We hauled the dropped bundle and cut straps. Water pouches, a radio battery, and a folded sheet of bright fabric. L's candidate. Road only. I wrote mile 42 west, clean on it, and tied it to the fence where a crew might see from the air. 3 left, Jonas said, watching the rotor vanish. "Think they'll make base?" "They will with Sora on board," I said. We moved parallel to the road to the fence. The tower rose ahead, the ring holding, cans ticking. A medic here was a luxury. A kid with a radio needed more than wind and a pencil log. Cal needed a room with doors that shut. Back on the platform, we set to work. Jonas cleaned the grate and checked ties. I pulled a sheet of thin metal and started the manual. Simple words, big letters, a map for someone who climbs scared and alone. "Welcome. This tower can be safe if you follow the rules. Ladder short on purpose. Use rope. Water, gutter, dump first minute, then boil. Power. Panels flat in wind. Fuses in small box. Ring, sand hoses. Trip line at ankles. Light only down the ladder. No night beacons. Noise. Tick line east. Pull eyes away from ladder. If you're steady, add 1 rung for the next person. If not, leave it short and live." I bolted the plate to the inner rail where a climber would rest. Jonas painted arrows. Water here, rope here, ladder pin. We labeled jars and taped a small checklist. What broke, what changed, what hurts. Near 1600, the radio cracked. "Prairie Gate to road team, copy bundle retrieved." "Retrieved," I said. 3 evac, medic, minor, radio hand. "Copy," the voice said. "Ground team within 48 hours to assess and resupply. Hold if safe. Mark approach if able." Jonas met my eye. 48 is a long time. Longer than last week, I said. We planned the hold. Panels flat, decoy lamp shielded for day only, lift line rewrapped. A go tub and brush at the base with rope, 2 liters, a spare stove. If a ground team makes it, we walk them in on the fence line and keep them off the tripwires. At dusk, we ate rice, split a ration brick, and drank hot water. The fence smoked once and went dark. A fox crossed the road. For a minute, the world pretended to be normal. Night brought the rules. Ladder up, lights down, watch on the 10s. I wrote what the day took and what it gave. 3 gone, 2 holding, 1 tower older and cleaner. A boy with a seat and a chance. A medic with a room that isn't a tarp. A kid with a band bigger than this square mile. Around midnight, the wind laid down and the radio bled a new voice. Quiet, close. Jonah Vale, this is Sora at Prairie Gate. Cal's stable. Miko's on a real rig. They want your map and your rules. Ground team plans mile 42 at 1300 in 2 days. If you can hold, we'll see you then. I didn't answer. Talking eats luck. I wrote every word and underlined the time. 48 hours, Jonas said, softer. We can make that. We can, I said. But we're not the only ones who heard rotors. We sat with our backs to the shell and listened to the road, counting reasons to leave and reasons to stay, knowing the list would have to be shorter by the time someone called up from the fence. 2 mornings later, the road sent a cloud of dust before we heard engines. Not fast, not slow. 2 trucks, doors marked Prairie Gate. Jonas and I stood at the rail and kept the ladder up until the lead stepped out, hands open, chin lifted to the sun, not the tower. Jonah Vale, he called. Holding per plan? Holding, I said. Ring is live. Trip lines inside. We'll walk you in. We took the slow path. Fence line, wide of the traps, quiet at the pad. The leader looked up at the cut rungs and nodded like he'd read the manual. We lowered the rope ladder, kept it short, and let them climb one at a time with me at the rail and Jonas at the pin. On the platform, we handed over the map, the times, the mirror, and notes about wind and noise. They gave back water pouches, a medical roll, and a bigger radio with a quick lesson. Keep this low, the tech said. Call only if the ground changes. Sora came last, grinning behind a mask, eyes tired but steady. She set a hand on the shell and then on my arm. Kid's warm and fed, she said. Miko's busy. He drew your gutter and argued about hyphens. We kept the visit short. Ground teams don't linger. We walked them down and let the trucks shrink to dust a long mile. The tower felt different once the sound faded. Not bigger, just clearer. I thought about staying and about leaving. Staying means watch lists and wine plates and a life of small wins. Leaving means rooms with doors, voices, and a table where someone else checks the fuse. Both are work. Only one is mine. We cleaned the grate, tied new tape, and ate rice with the last of the onions. I bolted the rule plate where a tired climber will see it and read enough to stop being stupid for a minute. Then I wrote this. If you find this tower, take the rules and make them yours. Cut the ladder short and keep the light down. Boil the water and tape the sharp. Count what matters. Share work like it's food. Raise a signal only when the ground is yours. My name is Jonah Vale. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe if this helped. Stay alert out there. Stay kind. Stay safe. Check the pin.